Franchise fatigue. Do you ever feel like sometimes you just have to step away from a series of games or movies because, well, you just kind of get tired of the same old tropes? No matter how much you love a series, it's almost a guarantee that franchise fatigue will creep up on you eventually, and I think I'm starting to experience that a little with the Yakuza games. Now, in order to avoid this, I try to review smaller titles in between entries, but still, it creeps up. Yakuza 4. Now, there's not much I really have to say about this game. Considering that we're now 5 games deep into the series, it's hard to write a review about this without repeating points I made in previous reviews. But since we are here, let's go ahead and talk about what Yakuza 4 did differently from the other titles and how it stacks up in comparison. Now, in terms of the story, just like my other 4 Yakuza reviews, I will not be spoiling any of the major plot points, and honestly, the way the story is presented, I can't say it's the easiest thing to follow anyway. Essentially, you're watching more lies, corruption, and power struggles told from the perspective of 3 characters, and the 4th being Kiryu. The first character we're introduced to is Akiyama, a businessman who runs this loan business called Sky Finance. Next up, we have Sajima, who is honestly the most interesting person out of all 4 characters in my opinion. Now, if you play Yakuza 0, we got a glimpse of Sajima during the Majima side of the story. Yakuza 4 does a great job in tying some of those events together, and since I'm playing these games in chronological order, I enjoy learning more about Majima's past. The last character is a detective who seems to still have one foot in the streets, Tanemura. All 3 of these characters have their own arc, and there are events that bring them all together near the end. Like I stated, Sajima's story to me was the most interesting, but the way the game presents the story, it just left me overall uninterested. The cutscenes were really long, and by the time we got to the end, I was just ready to move on from this game. Now, the gameplay is an improvement over Yakuza 3. The enemies don't block as much, the attacks and heat moves are fun and flashy to pull off, and since you're playing as 3 separate characters, this is a great way to switch up the combat. Akiyama uses mostly kicks. Sajima is a tank who hits like a truck, but is very slow to move. And Tanemura using parrying, and is actually my favorite character to play as outside of Kiryu. Now, in terms of the setting, we spend the majority of the game in Kamurocho in the 2010s. The city itself has not really changed much, and I found myself not really inclined to interact with the sub-stories like I would in previous titles. There are moments where you are on the beach in Okinawa or on the prison yard, but that is where the diversity of the setting stops. However, I do like how they allow the player to run along rooftops and underground malls. It gives the city a sense of scope, and I like that. Again, I didn't bother with the sub-stories this time around, but like in every game previously, I had to swing in Club Sega for some good old arcade action. The Hostess minigames are here, and just like Yakuza 0 and Kiwami 2, I just don't care to do these, and I know there are many fans of managing these clubs, but me personally, I never caught the appeal, so nah. Now, one thing I will give the game props on is its soundtrack, but that is a given with most Yakuza titles, so no complaints here. The game also looks really good. I'm playing the remaster version, but even with the PS3 original, it looked damn good. I'm always impressed on how good these Yakuza games tend to look. Overall, I know this was a short review, but honestly, I just didn't have much to say about this one. Combat and gameplay wise, I enjoyed it more than Yakuza 3, but the story is where the game really lost me. I can't say this is a bad game because it is a Yakuza game, so you know what you're going to get yourself into when you play this. So play it if you're a fan of the series, but if you're new, I do not recommend you start here. There are better games in the series that'll give you more context of the events that happen here. With that being said, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.